Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we are going to be discussing citations and how you should do them because there seems to be a lot of confusion in what exactly it is that you need to do. So, we're going to go ahead and discuss that as well as kind of the easiest way to do it so that you're not doing more work than you would need to do and you can get your goal, which is to finish your paper or project with the least amount of pain as possible, done. So once our outline is finished, we can go ahead and do our citations. You can also do these as you go through the outline. In fact, it might make it a lot easier. But in the event that you've gone ahead and done your outlines, let's talk about what we need to do to cite them. So for my outline here, the one over William Shakespeare, I came up with 4 different citations that I would use. The first is the biography from Shakespeare.org. The second is a YouTube video. The third is Asimov's Guide to Shakespeare. This is a print text that I use, so this is how we would cite something that is actually tangible, an actual book. And then finally, I have the movie Romeo plus Juliet, because let's say in this paper that I were doing that I wanted to discuss movies that had been made based on Shakespeare's work. So once I have all of my different sources and my information laid out, we need to cite them. So what you're going to do here is you're going to find a website that you can use to cite. There is ways that we can do this by hand, but realistically, not many people do this anymore because we have computers and tools that allow us to do this work for us. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're using an MLA citation generator, not an APA or a Chicago-style generator, because those are for different subjects, not for English. So once we have that, we're going to click on whatever site, whatever type of citation we're going to do, whether it's a website, a book, an encyclopedia entry, an online video if we're using a YouTube video. And you may notice in here that there is no section for DVD. So if you are going to do something like that, you might need to just go ahead and look up how to do it by hand. This is one of those times where we would still do it by hand, is if we don't have the option. And to cite a DVD, it's fairly easy, so we can just search that up using any search engine. But for the ones that we're doing today, we're going to take, say, a website, and we're going to go to Scriber here as our website. You can also use things like Citation Machine or EasyBib or Purdue OWL. I like this one because it's not bogged down with a bunch of ads, but however you get there, it doesn't really matter as long as you get the end result. So we're going to go ahead and run our website through our citation generator. So we're going to post it in here. And I happen to have the website already entered, so we would just copy the URL in. We're going to search for it. Find our website. And once we click on it here, it's going to go ahead and autofill all of our information for us. The only things that it doesn't come up with is our author's name, our publication date, and our publisher. A lot of these generators have trouble finding those, so you might have to enter them manually. And how you're going to do that is we just switch over to our website here. We check to see, is there an author? And a lot of websites don't have authors, but sometimes they do. So we'll check here at the top. And if one isn't there, then we would go all the way down here to the bottom to see if there's an author here. And there's no author here either. So instead, we'll skip over that. We'll leave the author blank, and we'll come down and we'll find the publication date. The publication date is usually down here with the copyright, although sometimes they have an update. So if they have an update, then that's the one that we're going to want to use so that we have the exact version of the website that we're looking at. This is important because if somebody's going to check our sources, but the website has changed, has been updated since we wrote the paper, that will help make sure that we're covered and that no one accuses us of having plagiarized or made up our information. It just came from a previous version of the website. So we want to have our publication date. In this case, it's 2021. And then we also want to have our publisher, which in this case is who funds it, the Arts Council of England. So sometimes the website address, the URL, is the same as the publisher. Sometimes it's not. So you want to look at who actually owns the domain. So then we would go back here. We're going to type in, we're going to leave our author alone because we don't have an author. We're going to type in our year, which is 2021. We're going to do our publisher, which is the Arts Council of England. And then we create our source. And right there it is. So we would copy and paste it over into our citation. So here are all of our citations, all 4 of them. Once that is done, we need to go about creating our parenthetical citations. So this is how we show where our facts in our outline or in our paper or in our presentation, how do we connect those to the source that they came from? So what we're going to do is we are going to put the name of our source here in parentheses. So in this case, Romeo and Juliet came from Baz Luhrmann. And if we go down here, we see that that Luhrmann, Baz, was the first word that we have in our source that isn't also shared by one of our other sources. So we have Romeo and Juliet here, and we want to make sure that we don't have that in any other sources. Now, in this case, I could have just put it as Romeo or Juliet in the parentheses, but let's assume that I continue to write more about Romeo and Juliet, so that I had more than one source that talks about Romeo and Juliet. In that case, I would want to find the first word that differentiates this from any other source, which would be the name of our director. Same thing up here is we would use the name of the author, Asimov, as our parenthetical citation. Now, here and here, both A and C, our sources have the word Shakespeare in it, so we wouldn't want to use Shakespeare or William Shakespeare as our parenthetical citation. So instead for A, I'm going to use in parentheses the word biography, because if I look down, I'm just going to look for the source that has biography in it. And then for C, I'm going to put probably birthplace or trust, okay, as my video. So then we go up to our citations, and everything that comes from the source, we're going to label it as parenthetically coming from that. So all of these come from the same source, the DVD by Luhrmann. Now, I don't need to put Luhrmann after each and every one of these facts because they all came from the same fact. But if we go up here, they all come from the same source, excuse me. But if we go up here to number 1, what I did was I have a bunch of different information that all comes from different sources. So in order to keep it straight, I need to say this fact comes from biography, this fact comes from birthplace, this fact comes from Asimov. And these two I'm not going to differentiate because they both came from the same place. So when I cite this here, I know that everything in between birthplace and biography had to have come from biography because this always goes at the end of our source or at the end of our sentences. Now, there's a couple reasons that we might want to do this, have all of our different information from different sources instead of this, where we all get all of our information from one source and only cite at the end. And one of the reasons that we might do that is because maybe our initial source didn't have all the facts that we want, so we need to hunt down more information, and so we're going to put all the facts that we got from different sources. But the other thing that this helps us do is if we need to make our paper longer, this can help stretch out our paper just a little bit. Now, if you're actually invested in writing in the subject, you might not want to do this unless you are trying to demonstrate that you're verifying your sources from multiple different places. Then that's a really good thing to do. But if, say, you just need to add a couple of words into your paper in order to get it to be that 2 pages, 3 pages, however long you're writing it, switching sources can help add length into our papers. So all the way down here, what I have here is I have my paper, and we've only cited at the end of the paragraph. Now, realistically, if I were writing this, I wouldn't want to do that because this doesn't give credit to all the other places that I got my information. But I do want to point out that even though we have our source here according to shakespeare.org.uk, I still need to make sure that I'm citing it at the very end. Otherwise, my citation is not complete and I can still get hit with plagiarism. So you still absolutely have to have that parenthetical citation, even if you already have an in-text citation. And again, if you are getting information from multiple sources, you have to make sure that you have those parenthetical citations in the appropriate place. So don't skimp on those, otherwise it's going to come back to haunt you when you get hit with plagiarism because you didn't cite your paper correctly. Does this seem tedious? Well, it can at times, which again is one of the good reasons that we do these outlines, is because instead of going and citing every single fact, it's already done. And so when you turn these into sentences, you just keep that citation there and your work is done for you. But even though it might seem tedious or boring or pointless, again, it is going to save you from being accused of plagiarism. You'll be able to back up your information and you'll be able to demonstrate that your claims are in fact true. So these are all things that you'll absolutely need to know, not only on this assignment, but really on any assignment going forward. All right, that's it for our citations. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, go ahead and get to work.